Hello, good day, everybody. And it is in India, it is 7 p.m. And in other places, you have your own time. I have started a podcast window to chat with LinkedIn professionals and discuss about their work and bring some questions which may help the other professionals. So, without much ado, I will bring my guest, Lynda Spiegel. Is it the right pronunciation? Spiegel?
Spiegel.
Spiegel. Okay. Lynda Spiegel, and she is now in the US, and she's from the US, and she is a professional. I connected with her some few years ago, lot many years, of course, maybe in 2014. And we also personally met when she visited India in 2018. And she is doing a very good work. Before I tell anything, let us listen to what Lynda does. So the first question I should uh, want to know from your mouth, so who you are and what you do. It is Lynda Spiegel.
Spiegel, right. So I am a former human resources executive. I worked in global human resources in a variety of countries. And I have since 2014 established Rising Star Resumes, where I write resumes for my clients as well as optimize their LinkedIn profiles.
Yes, and today Lynda kindly agreed to discuss on a topic, resume and LinkedIn profile. So before anything, I wish to ask her what is a resume.
So let me first say what a resume is not. A resume is not a history of everything you've ever done in your work life. A resume is a marketing document meant to show the kinds of employers you want to work for, what you're capable of, what your experiences are, and what your skill set is. It's also a good idea to lead the resume with very specific, curated list of your accomplishments.
Yes, and we also use some other words in career that is called CV or curriculum vitae. So, what is the difference? Is there any difference between resume and curriculum vitae?
Yeah, CVs are only used in the U.S. For academics, people who publish. Outside of the U.S., there are people outside of the academic professions who still refer to what they submit as a CV. But that's because there are protocols that are acceptable in other countries that are not acceptable in the U.S. For example, in a European or Asian CV, you'll see a photograph at the top. You'll see personal information like someone's marital status and so forth, things that are not acceptable in the U.S. So that's the basic difference. But increasingly, all over the globe, the resume rather than the CV for most people is appropriate.
Thank you. What should be the main ingredients? You all, of course, already told probably, but what should be the main ingredients of a good resume?
The most important thing that belongs in your resume is a statement, a short statement of your value proposition. So, putting myself back in my former role in human resources, I receive a resume in response to a position I need to fill. And my first question is this the right person? Is this someone I want to interview and bring in? So I need a well articulated statement that says who this person is and what value do they bring to this role. That's the most important aspect of a resume.
Okay. So, and we also should know that what are the things we should not include in a resume.
There are things that waste space. So remember, since most resumes are viewed digitally, on a screen, you want the eye to focus on the most important information. So you don't want to distract the vision with unnecessary things. And some of those unnecessary things are a description of your employer, what your employer does. You also don't want to, there's no point in saying what city the employer is based in. That's also irrelevant. I also leave off the months that you were in a position because that doesn't really matter. It's the years that sort of count. So that's really what should not be on a resume. And in the US, as I said earlier, no personal information like your marital status or the number of children you have or any of that.
And is there any
years, and it will fit on 2 pages.
that means the current position, the most recent activities, and maybe very important past activity. Means, say, suppose somebody has a very important role, which is in the very early of their career. So
Right.
they want to highlight.
And here's how you do it. So if you would go on my website and you take a look at the samples of my clients' resumes, you'll notice that the first thing at the top of the page after the contact information is a summary of qualifications, that value proposition I mentioned. The next thing that the eye will see, because it's at the top of your screen when you're viewing it online, is a curated list of specific accomplishments. And those can be 40 or 50 years old, it doesn't matter. I have on my resume something I did in the 1980s. It doesn't have a date attached to it, but it was a very impressive accomplishment of which I'm very proud. So that's where you would put something more than 15, 20 years ago in the past that you do want employers to know about.
Yes. As for an example, I just remember one profile in LinkedIn. She had worked on physics and mathematics in very early of her academics, and her parents moved to a different country for more than 1.5 years. And now, that was different. And now she is working. She finally graduated from law school, And
That's
but
a
she mentions that very early career where she worked in CERN in Switzerland for 1.5 years after the high school, and the parents lived there only to get that internship. And she still mentions in the biodata, means in the profile, but in her career, whether that type of mention is what? That is my question. Is very very distinct
But
something.
you don't have to, she should not, and I'm sure she doesn't, include it in the timeline of her professional experience. She can mention it definitely in her LinkedIn profile because it's something interesting about her. But she, in her resume, if she did anything particularly interesting about it, that could go in the career highlights or
Okay.
section. Again,
Second page or something.
no, not the second page.
Yes.
That's no, because it's important. It's interesting.
Yes.
Remember, I said the second section of the resume
Okay.
is the career highlights, or you
Okay.
could call it accomplishments, and
Yes.
that's where I would mention earlier career in physics and whatever.
Yes. It is interesting. And when we have brought LinkedIn, so the next point is what is the importance of LinkedIn in our resume?
LinkedIn is incredibly important. For example, first of all, it provides you a global network, and without it, I would not have met you.
Of course, yes.
Of course. So it's vital for several reasons. As an employer, when I was an employer, I would go on LinkedIn to search for passive candidates for positions I needed to fill.
Yes.
The other reason is that through the networking connections, you develop second-degree connections, and those are very valuable. So you know where your friends work, but you don't know where the people they know work. And if you're interested in a job at a certain company, you would go to your second-degree network connections, see who is a second-degree connection at that company, and reach out personally to that person and say, can you get my resume in front of the hiring manager? So for two reasons, LinkedIn is vital. You will be found by recruiters if you have a good searchable profile, which is something I work on. And you will also develop network connections that will help you get contacts at your target companies.
Okay. So that means LinkedIn profile should be very carefully designed.
Oh, absolutely. There's an algorithm, of course, on LinkedIn like everywhere else. And the algorithm is searching in the headline and in the about section primarily. So many of my clients have told me that they've gotten much more attention from hiring managers and recruiters after I've written their profile, because most people default to a terrible mistake on LinkedIn. In the headline section, they put their title and their employer's name. So vice president at Colgate-Palmolive, for example. Not a good idea. That 120, I think it's 140 characters. No, it's 120 characters in the headline. You want that to be keywords that will improve the SEO of your profile. And then in the about section, you also want to make sure it's embedded with the keywords to improve the profile's SEO.
Okay. So that means most of the many senior people, they use their designation, company name. So they are misusing the headline.
And not just senior people, on anything.
Junior also, yes.
Oh, everybody. Yeah,
Everybody.
a lot of people make that mistake. It's just laziness. And you want to hear something really frustrating? I have clients who use the headline section that I wrote for them They get all this attention from recruiters. They get a great new job. And you know what they do as soon as they get the new job? They switch to senior vice president at such and such company. And I say to them, why are you doing that? And they said, well, Lynda, I got the job. And I said, is it the last job you will ever have in your life? Do you not want to be made aware of another opportunity?
President.
So a brief story of a client of mine who is a paralegal, got his new job, very excited. And because he listened to me, he kept the headline that I'd written for him. He started his new job. He was relatively happy, but then he started getting requests from recruiters for even better jobs and better jobs. So he quit his new job and got a job for much more money because he kept the keyword rich one.
And when LinkedIn, I mean, the designing of LinkedIn profile. So what should be the must information to be put on LinkedIn profile?
Okay, well, you don't want to forget to have your contact information there. You also want to make sure that, as I said a moment ago, that your headline is keyword rich. Now, here's something else most people don't think about, is your location. So many people just put where they live as their location, but increasingly work is remote, right? So if you leave out the zip code in the United States or the postal code in other countries, if you leave that field blank, it will default to the country you're in. And that will improve your ability to be found for jobs where working remote is your option. Oh, and you also want to embed any media that helps improve your profile. You also want to include software or hardware skills, depending on your field. Really take advantage of every field that LinkedIn provides you. And if you have something you could add to that field, do it.
Yes, fulfilling all the options, feature they provide us. And what are the traits, personal traits that we may sometime we may not put it on say LinkedIn profile or some other things? What are the personal traits you think may actually harm career?
I don't think telling people what your personal traits are is at all meaningful, because we all think we have wonderful personal traits. I've never seen anybody who wasn't a team player or who wasn't, a consensus builder, or everybody's got wonderful traits. Everybody is an excellent communicator, even if they're, so, and nobody says, well, I'm really a curmudgeon and I don't like people, so it's kind of meaningless to say what your personal traits are. But instead of just saying that you're a good communicator, demonstrate it.
Yes.
If you want to say you're a team player, give an example of how you built consensus in a team situation, in a group situation. So my mantra, if you will, is show, don't tell.
Okay. Yes. So I just remember one incident. I really in 2014 and 2015. Yes, I just created one small item for my cultural activities, maybe say music and other things. And one of my friends, he suggested it doesn't help you anything. And after some time, I also discovered that the same person also, after many years, of course, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, that person introduced his position as a football coach. And then I asked him about, Then he told that I'm getting some good work because I already qualified as a football coach, FIFA coach. So I'm started to get some work for that. So I introduced that.
So so what I think there's a difference between personal traits and hobbies, which is
Yes,
what you're
yes,
talking
yes,
about. So as I said, you can't, you can say whatever you want about yourself, but it's not going to be negative. So personal traits are meaningless. Hobbies and interests are different.
yes,
I I personally have never hired somebody because they shared, an interest of mine, but they can spark conversation. So if I used to be a marathon runner,
okay,
so if I saw that somebody else was a runner, it was just, a conversation starter. I never
yes,
hired someone because of it,
yes,
but in an interview, it's a good icebreaker. So I don't particularly believe in putting it on the resume. I might add something funny in the section at the beginning, the value proposition, when I'm not coaching football for
yes,
my son's football league,
yes,
or when I'm not analyzing data for marketers,
yes,
you can find me coaching football. That, a little mention like that makes your resume more, personal and humane. But to focus on it unduly, it's not going to get you hired, but it's definitely something more interesting to know about you. And if there's room in the about section of your LinkedIn profile, definitely mention it. It's not going to hurt.
yes. And I just remember one feature, that icon that gives an option for giving about putting an audio about the, as you say, that Lynda Spiegel. So the pronunciation of the name, or maybe one very short word about the professional. So do you think that also is a good thing? I mean, some people, many people, they don't use it because it is still available in the mobile app, not in the
Mhm.
desktop app. So have you
Yeah,
suggested
I,
anybody to use it?
I haven't, but it's like I said, it doesn't hurt.
Yes, it is an additional information.
Sure, sure.
Or maybe a short headline also can come there. Means that shorter headline can also come as an audio, including the
Uh,
name.
yeah, it could. It could. The audio that I have personally on my own profile are little uh, sound bites from times when I've spoken or done workshops.
Yes. I remember one of your very top read article on, you called it career pivot.
The career pivot, right,
Career
right.
pivot. What is that, and how it
Sure.
can be utilized in LinkedIn?
A career pivot, and they're going right now in the United States, career pivoting is become a phenomenon. A career pivot is when you have been in one career and you switch to a different career entirely, or even tangentially. Um, and a lot of people do it successfully. Um, I pivoted from marketing communications to human resources. Um, right now, I'm getting inundated with requests from teachers in the United States. They 2 teachers a day contact me. I want to get out because with COVID has exacerbated the challenges of being an educator, and unfortunately, the number of teachers trying to pivot into the corporate world far exceeds the demand in the corporate world for jobs with their backgrounds. But there are people who make very successful career pivots, such as the person you just mentioned who pivoted from science to law. So yeah, career pivots are very real, and in many cases, they're very doable.
Yes. And another word, maybe career pivot, and maybe I have known one person. Physically, I have not met him. The person is from advertising and also a musician, a flute player. So he mixed both and started a new business, creating sonic branding for the
Wow.
companies.
Really
So is this pivot or maybe something else?
You know, that's a different phenomena. When and again, there's an explosion of this going on, at least in the United States, where people say, you know what, enough of working for someone else. I'm going to utilize all my skills and start my own business. And I'm the greatest example of that. You know, I started Rising Star Resumes because the challenges of getting hired in human resources for someone my age, at the time I was in my early 60s, and you know, ageism is very real. So when I realized that, you know, nobody wanted to hire their mom, no, basically, I started my own company, and you know, it's been very successful for me, as it has. It's increasingly showing to be very successful for so many people, and I'm all for entrepreneurship. But I do want to say one thing about it. Typically, um, it is difficult if you're an entrepreneur for many years to revert back to being an employee.
Yes.
Employers really have an issue with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs don't understand it. They say, well, look at all the things that I've done. I can do this, I can do that.
Yes.
But employers tend to think, well, you worked for yourself. You're not accustomed to taking direction from someone else, so you're going to be a problem. Um, and I see entrepreneurs having a hell of a time. One exception is my own son, who had his own company and has recently been hired as the CMO of a wonderful US company. But that's pretty rare.
No, and maybe entrepreneurs, maybe they also can consider themselves as say part-time employee of other big companies, isn't it? Means say they are having a solution which they also sell to others.
Most companies, so a lot of people have what we call side gigs. So they're employed by a company, but they're on the side doing something else and earning money. Employers do not like to know that.
Yes.
No, so nobody likes to think I'm paying someone a salary and how much of that time are they spending earning money on their side gigs. So it's not a good thing to advertise, but on the other hand, it's a good thing to do to test the waters if you want to become an entrepreneur. But again, in my business, when you're doing a resume, you are the point of the resume is you're an employee and you want to remain an employee. The LinkedIn profile definitely is used by entrepreneurs. I am. And it's very successful for me, but I don't write those kinds of profiles myself. I can recommend wonderful people on LinkedIn who work with entrepreneurs for their profiles, but I'm all about getting a job, helping
Okay.
my
Yes.
clients get a job.
Yes, you already answered. So I had a question that if entrepreneurs also should keep a resume sort of thing, because for pitching or for that purpose.
Yes, I would agree.
Yes, and I remember one of your books. Mm, do you also have a plan or already in a process of writing your second book?
No,
Okay,
no.
because the current situation is a different one, and this experience might have given you new insights, new experiences, um, which may give a different aspects of resume, LinkedIn profile, and all sorts of this career, job search, and other things. If you
So I wouldn't do it in a book because the book is sort of you know, once it's published, it's there. I write a lot of articles. I've written for NBCnews.com. I've written for the Wall Street Journal. Articles are a much better way than a book because when things are in flux as much as they are in the business world, an article is better. You know, so I write an
yes,
article, either publish it in it's either published by a media outlet or I just put it on my website and share it. And that's how I provide recent insights to my my clients.
Yes. And sometimes back, I just had an odd question. Internet is already there, but suppose with a catastrophic or something incident for some few months, it is not there. So what other channels or what other ways people can do, say, if say professional networks like say LinkedIn stop existing one day, they stop their business.
I'm not
So
sure
what professionals should do to promote their profiles?
I'm not sure I understand the
The
question.
question.
Are you saying it's
No,
because the
okay.
internet goes,
That is a very big question, internet not existing. But first one, maybe say LinkedIn is giving a good platform. So one day, if suddenly or with a notice also, they decided to stop existing in the same way or maybe partially or fully. So
yeah,
what the professional should do, I mean, should they have a advanced plan? Like anything can happen. One cannot be sure that a business will go continue with the same.
I don't think that's I mean, internet connectivity in the United States is really not an issue in most places. And as for platforms like LinkedIn disappearing, it hasn't. I don't think it will. And if it did, there'd be another one cropping up. So I don't think, the internet's going anywhere.
This is, of course, a very odd thought experiment. My question was actually to do you have any advice that could improve career prospect even without the internet? Means other channels. What?
I can't think of any. I'm so internet dependent myself.
Yes.
But, I think just having a robust network of people. Well, in this scenario you're envisioning, this Armageddon, do we have email?
Yes. Yes.
We do have email.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have an offline access to your network, you can
Yes.
always email people and say, I know about this position, and someone at that company, can you help me out?
Yes.
But again, I'm not looking at Armageddon-like situations.
Of course. No, that is not for all, but in some cases, some people they are censored. They're out of a platform, all on a sudden, and some people are very prominent. Some people are normal people, but all on a sudden the platform just censored. So
You're talking about a situation that's really outside of my own experience, because we don't ban platforms in the United States or the UK. And if you're talking about other countries like China or the Soviet Union, the Russia, where there's where there is a degree of censorship, I'm not familiar with those environments. So, I really have nothing valuable to say about it.
okay, and do you have any additional advice for other LinkedIn professionals? What in the future, what they should concentrate on?
So I would I would always stay abreast of trends in the job market. And if you feel like, if you're in an industry that is experiencing a decline, and I'm going to give you a perfect example in the United States, in the financial sector, people who worked as traders in the stock market, that's so automated right now, and many of them are having trouble finding relevant jobs because what they were doing doesn't exist. So my thing is, my main advice is stay abreast of trends. And if you feel that your field is becoming increasingly automated, start now to build other competencies. One of my clients successfully earned a PMP, Project Management Professional Certification. So she was able to get hired as a project manager. So, you know, don't be an ostrich. Take your head out of the sand. Be aware of trends and proactively and on early address what you need to do to be ready for the next level of, you know, and of careers, and also stay very current with technology, no matter what you do.
So it is a very nice discussion, and I should thank you because you agreed with a very short notice to be on live. And generally, the live discussions people don't join, but fortunately, this discussion is recorded on LinkedIn, so and also on Facebook. So I hope that during the future days, some people will also listen to this chat and may get some help. And I hope that we may meet after this.
This pandemic is over.
This unnatural situation, although it is not naturally managed, but we hope that we can meet again in person.
Debesh, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe, and
Yes.
look forward to speaking to you again.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.